From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Russ Riesinger. Thanks for joining us tonight. We start with the passing of longtime Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ginsburg died this evening due to complications from pancreatic cancer. She was 87 years old. Tonight, Nicole Killian takes a look back at her life and legacy.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a star in the legal world, but most Americans learned her name in 1993 when President Bill Clinton tapped her for the Supreme Court.
I, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, do solemnly swear.
Poised and soft-spoken, she was a native New Yorker with a stellar resume and only the second woman ever picked for the nation's highest court. But decades earlier, after graduating from Columbia Law School, Ginsburg had to fight her way along the career path. She had the full support of her husband Martin, but being Jewish, a woman, and a mother, she said, were 3 strikes that put her out of the game. Rejected by law firms, she took a job as a law clerk, then a professor. In the 1970s, she started the Women's Rights Project at the ACLU.
Having experienced discrimination, she devoted the next 20 years of her career to fighting it.
Ginsburg took on a series of landmark cases dealing with gender equality. She argued 6 cases before the Supreme Court and won 5. And she welcomed President Clinton's nomination, not just as a personal achievement, but as a step forward for women.
It contributes to the end of the days when women, at least half the talent pool in our society, appear in high places only as one-at-a-time performers.
One of the High Court's more liberal voices, Ginsburg consistently supported civil rights, and she issued a strong dissent in the Bush versus Gore case, which decided the 2000 election. But she also voted with her conservative colleagues. She called the late Antonin Scalia her best buddy, and the two put ideology aside to share their love of opera and adventure. But she raised a political flap during the 2016 presidential race when she called Republican Donald Trump a faker. She later said she regretted her remarks but stopped short of an apology. Ginsburg has had several health scares. In 2018, doctors removed 2 growths from her lungs, causing her to miss 6 days in court. She survived colon cancer and 2 incidents involving pancreatic cancer. Her refusal to step down and her unparalleled work ethic earned her pop culture icon status.
It was beyond my wildest imagination that I would one day become the notorious RBG.
Ginsburg lost her husband in 2010 after 56 years of marriage, but she was back in court a few days later for what she called an exhilarating development when Elena Kagan joined her and Sonia Sotomayor on the High Court, another milestone for the women's movement, which Ginsburg helped pioneer. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Washington.
Meanwhile, the race for the White House continues through the battleground state of Minnesota, where both presidential candidates campaigned today. President Trump also announced a multi-billion-dollar aid package for Puerto Rico 3 years after Hurricane Maria devastated that island, and he touted progress on COVID vaccine trials. Natalie Brand has more.
Thank you very much.
President Trump held a news conference at the White House.
In a short time, we'll have a safe and effective vaccine, and we'll defeat the virus.
Later, the president will hold a campaign rally in northern Minnesota. Joe Biden is also in the Gopher State for the first time as the Democratic nominee, touring a union training center to continue his push for working class voters. The latest CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows Biden with a comfortable lead over President Trump there. Meanwhile, CBS News has confirmed the former vice president received his first classified briefing from intelligence officials this week in Delaware, which is customary for presidential nominees. President Trump and Joe Biden's dueling campaign stops in Minnesota coincide with the state's first day of early in-person voting.
I voted for Trump. Okay. Wearing red.
I have voted all over the map. I vote for character.
Voters also started heading to the polls Friday in South Dakota, Wyoming, and Virginia.
I never seen so many people to come out to vote like this in early voting.
It's important to get out there. Don't wait. don't hold back.
Vice President Mike Pence traveled to Arizona to court Latino voters and veterans. The latest CBS polling there shows the typically red state in toss-up territory.
During this National Hispanic Heritage Month, just thank you for everything that this community contributes to the life of this nation.
Democratic vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris stays put in Washington, D.C. to launch a Congressional Black Caucus PAC virtual bus tour with a focus on battleground states and voter registration. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Well, the Democratic vice presidential candidate also attended a virtual event this evening hosted by the singer Lizzo. President Trump will rally in another battleground state, North Carolina, tomorrow. U.S. Senator Steve Daines, who's up for re-election, and his Democratic challenger, Governor Steve Bullock, spoke to a gathering of U.S. Postal Service letter carriers today in Helena. And both candidates said they very much support sustaining the Postal Service and helping it get out of its financial straits. Daines, a Republican, pointed to his co-sponsorship of a bill that he said would ease unreasonable requirements that the Postal Service pre-fund employee health benefits. He also said he wants to forgive a $10 billion loan to the Postal Service made earlier this year and work on more aid to get the Postal Service through the coronavirus pandemic. Daines said he's committed to preserving the Postal Service and doing it with bipartisan cooperation. Bullock, a Democrat, pointed to the lawsuit he filed 10 days ago to force the Postal Service to reverse actions taken in recent months that he said are delaying service. He said the lawsuit is fighting back against what he called attacks on public servants and on institutions like labor unions by big money interests.
There's a reason why union membership's half of what it was in the 1980s. It's not because everybody's now doing great and there's no reason to organize and collectively bargain. It's been outside dollars and outside forces that have been trying to attack those very institutions.
And let me just be clear too, I do not support privatization. I don't. That is, we have private options out there. You've got FedEx, you've got UPS. There's private options available. We must keep the United States Postal Service, in my opinion, the way it is.
The letter carriers union in Montana has about 550 members. Well, First Student, the company hired to transport Billings school students, has wasted no time firing a bus driver arrested for DUI while driving a school bus full of kids. 46-year-old Keith Jones was driving a First Student bus when multiple Bend Steel students noticed erratic and unsafe driving behavior. He was arrested for DUI, drugs, and felony criminal endangerment. First Student sent out a statement today saying, quote, "We are incredibly disappointed by our former driver's actions. First Student has a zero tolerance policy for employees whose actions may put others at risk. Behavior such as this is completely unacceptable and at odds with what we stand for as a company." Now, we spoke with a student and parent last night.
A lot of them were scared and contacted their parents about it. And some of them thought we were gonna crash or something. I told her there was something up when we were riding the bus, and I was really scared on it.
I got a text message from him saying "love you," which is not out of the ordinary, but it just seemed a little odd today. But I was in the middle of work, so I continued doing what I was doing, and he informed me as soon as I got home about what had happened, and it was probably not even 10 minutes later I ended up reading the article that was posted about it.
Well, Keith Jones is scheduled to be arraigned in district court on Monday morning at 9 a.m. Superintendent Greg Upham says he will meet with First Student corporate office personnel next week. He's requested a full investigation, wants to know what happened and how to prevent anything like that in the future. Well, tonight we have learned of 3 new deaths at the long-term care facility in Flathead County. 11 patients from that facility have now died of COVID-related symptoms. In those deaths, in addition to 3 COVID-related deaths reported by the state today in Rosebud County. It's a spacious eastern Montana county that has a small population of just about 9,000 people. That brings the state death toll to 150 as we enter the weekend. This has Montana for a second day in a row broke the record of confirmed COVID-19 cases. 224 new active cases, 31 new cases reported here in Yellowstone County. Well, as the year grows closer to an end, we also grow closer to flu season. The CDC reports that a record number of flu vaccines have been ordered this year in preparation. The similarities between COVID symptoms and flu symptoms are similar, though the loss of taste and smell has been commonly experienced in COVID patients. Now, it is possible for people to be infected by both COVID and the flu, so health officials are reminding people that now is a good time to start thinking about getting their seasonal vaccines. There's also a separate dose for elderly individuals comprised of a different combination of the A and B antigens designed for this vulnerable age group.
Kids under the age of 6 months really can't get the flu vaccine. So getting your flu vaccine, you're protecting those that can't get the vaccine. So you're protecting those that are younger, you're protecting those that are immunocompromised that can't receive the vaccine. So that's why it's so important.
Riverstone has the vaccine on hand currently, and they say that more has been ordered this year than in any year in the past. The third Friday in September is National Prisoner of War and Missing in Action Day in the United States. And in Laurel this morning, the American Legion held a remembrance ceremony. That ceremony took place at Thompson Park. Not only saw neighbors and veterans come out, but many students from nearby schools as well. The event featured speakers from the community as well as retired military members. And it was complete with the playing of taps and a volley from the American Legion Honor Guard. The United States has some 87,000 missing in action soldiers, 54 from Montana, one from right here in Yellowstone County.
His name is Alan Ashhall. He was shot down over Vietnam, and his plane and his remains still are unaccounted for. And in 2014, we were able to get in contact with his family, and we placed a memorial stone at the National Cemetery here in Laurel for Alan as a remembrance.
And of course, Alan and so many others may be lost, but they're certainly not forgotten. Still ahead on the MTN 9 o'clock news, right to work laws becoming front and center in Montana's race for governor. We'll dive into that debate in just a bit. But first, Bob McGuire's in next with your full 7-day forecast. We'll be right back.